How would you describe the smell of Stilton cheese? If you said it was rich and savoury, nobody would bat an eyelid. Nor would they be surprised if you said it smelled of old socks. Most would nod sagely if you said it smelled metallic or mouldy. After all, those blue veins are a variety of penicillin. And like many cheeses, it's rich in metallic elements. But what if you said it smelled of chalk, or phosphorus, or that it just smelled like any other cheese? What if the smell made you feel unwell, or you couldn't bear to be in the same room with it? How would you expect people to react? Not everybody senses things in the same way, and autistic people often experience the world in a way most non-autistic people would find unusual, even unable to relate to. So for the next couple of films in the Verbal Spectrum series, let's take a look at autistic senses and communication. Back in the 1990s, when I first started to make contact with other autistic people online, we'd often discuss aspects of our lives which we knew were different, but had not yet been picked up on by the scientists who studied us. Many of us had realised that we could see, hear or smell things other people weren't aware of. We talked of the beauty of music or the sounds of the sea, while sharing the pain of buzzing electricity and the torture of traffic noise. We'd wax lyrical about the intense sensations of velvet or rolling marbles between our palms, contrasted with the torture of labels in our clothes. That sparked a second debate from the opposite point of view. Some of us found it difficult, even impossible, to relate to sensory observations other people made. We worried that one or more of our senses was defective, despite being told by doctors that our sensory organs were in perfect working order. As a community, we realised that it was common for autistic people to sense things differently to the neurotypical average. It wasn't that our eyes or ears were any more or less sensitive than other people's. It was something to do with the way we process sensory information that made us more or less able to distinguish details. Charlie and Les both lived in the same UK city, and neither had ever travelled abroad. But Charlie could identify anyone's accent, often down to the district of the town they came from, sometimes even where their parents came from, whilst Les couldn't tell if someone was from New York or Newcastle. Sid could tell you by smell alone whether a cake was baked using plain all-purpose flour and baking powder or self-raising flour, whilst Viv wouldn't know if it was a lemon or vanilla cake, however much they ate. None of them had a physiological difference in their senses, but the way their minds processed sensory signals was far from average. In clinical terms, people like Charlie and Sid, who could sense things others miss, are hypersensitive, whereas Les and Viv, who found it hard to differentiate things most average people do, would be called hyposensitive. Plenty of autistic people are both hyper and hyposensitive, sometimes to different types of stimulus within the same senses. Our sensory perceptions often influence our behaviour and choices. Someone who is hypersensitive may be noticeably uncomfortable when they're being overstimulated, and may avoid places they know their senses are likely to be overwhelmed, like crowded rooms, cinemas or busy roads. People who are hyposensitive may need to compensate in everyday life, perhaps by getting closer to people, altering the lighting, or seeking longer, repeated exposure to be certain that their perceptions are clear. It's inevitable that if some of our senses are dialed up to 11 or down to 1, it's also going to impact on how we describe the world. Not only does it affect the details in our observations, it might mean we have no observations to share at all. You'll find it in the words we use, particularly in similes and metaphors. Increased sensitivity might lead to comparisons that make no sense to an audience, because we perceive details or layers that everyday folk just won't be aware of. The hyposensitive person may find it difficult to relate to sensory comparisons to which we have limited sensitivity. We may be none the wiser and request clarification, and might also find it hard to describe certain things in as much detail as people want from us. Most of the communication barriers presented to autistic people with sensory differences are not of our own making, though. They are in the attitudes and preconceptions of the non-autistic people we interact with. People seem to have tremendous difficulty accepting that our senses aren't the same as theirs. Instead of taking us at face value, we get told we must be fantasists, liars, or intellectually disabled. We even get accused of malice or intent to do harm. Charlie mentioned a colleague's Italian heritage during a conference call, hoping to build rapport. They could hear it in their voice, but they were met with hostility and accused of cyberstalking. When Les was in a similar situation and couldn't tell who was talking because all the voices sound so similar, they were shut out of the conversation and told off later for being ignorant and aggressive. Sid no longer talks about smell or taste because they're told they're imagining things or being overcritical, whilst Viv has grown so tired of being accused of insulting people's cooking or food choices by not being able to express an opinion, they no longer accept any invitations from anyone that might involve food, not even when someone offers round a bag of sweets or snacks. I get it myself. I mentioned in a previous video that I'm hypersensitive to human voices, which has got me into trouble for overhearing conversations nobody thought I could hear, or accused of eavesdropping, spreading gossip, or holding grudges because I hear the cruel comments made about me behind my back. When people respond negatively towards us because we sense the world differently to them, it's harmful. It makes us want to withdraw and to withhold information. It doesn't just affect our communication, it can silence us. If someone is colourblind, it's common knowledge that they won't see everything the same as other people. Or if they're anosmic, they won't be able to smell and will taste things differently. Why is it then so hard to understand that some people can have senses that are sharper than the average, though? Or be both more and less acute in the same sense in different contexts? Why do people disbelieve that someone like Les can have perfect pitch and instantly play any tune by ear, but can't tell who's speaking to them by the sound of their voice? To understand and accommodate autistic sensory differences in verbal communication, you have to take on board not only that such differences exist, but they can be selective, inconsistent, and vary with our physical and emotional well-being. If you assume the worst and accuse somebody of ill will or intellectual capacity every time you don't relate to their sensory descriptions, or we don't understand yours, then you hurt us. You actively exclude us and discourage us from talking to you, even from participating in aspects of life you take for granted. Communication is a two-way street. And just as we accept that other cultures and nationalities have different languages and customs, we must as a society accept that autistic people, like me, often sense and describe the world differently. Listen and learn, and you might even discover ways of appreciating the world you never dreamed of. Thank you for watching. I'd like to say a big thank you to everyone who has bought Autistic merch in the last few weeks, and especially to the patrons on Patreon who make a huge contribution to the channel's future. You can subscribe to the channel to be kept up to date with weekly videos here, or watch another Autistic video over here.